Come and sit by you.
I got it.
That's right, Dustin's back in the office.
Our first item up is some great news. We're going to meet some new, very important employees, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hoffman, our Policy and Rules Manager, who's got some friends with her today.
Thank you, Chair Postman, and good morning to you and Board Member Wallendroff, who's sitting next to me. I am really pleased to introduce today Cassidy West and Daniel Jacobs, who have joined our Policy and Rules team. And can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So I'm going to hand it over to Cassidy to provide a little bit of her background, and then we'll move over to Daniel so he can do the same. So go ahead, Cassidy.
Well, hi, nice to virtually meet everybody. So my background is basically I started working in the cannabis industry in 2014 in Colorado. And so I did that for several years. I eventually went off on my own, running my own basically compliance firm for cannabis businesses, cannabis and hemp. And then I saw this job posted online and I thought, well, geez, I have a great regulatory background. I know cannabis. This sounds perfect for me. So that's it.
Great. Yeah, I think I may have mentioned this to you. I know I mentioned a lot of people here that I'm pretty sure you're the first person we've hired who has experience in the industry, in the cannabis industry. And it just sort of tells me a little bit like how far this has all evolved. That,
Yeah.
you know, because when we started, there was no industry to hire anybody with, and people learned it. So I was really excited that you're.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. And so Cassidy will be focusing primarily on the cannabis rules, working alongside Jeff. And then next move over to Daniel. So Daniel, if give us just a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so I'm Daniel Jacobs. I will just let you know now I'm in the lobby at the Kaiser outpatient in Bellevue. So that's just, I'm just here. My kid's having a minor procedure. Everything's fine, but I'm just letting you know, look up suddenly, or if there's suddenly noise of something that sounds like I'm in a hospital, it's because I kind of am. So I'm Daniel. My background is an attorney. Been practicing since 2015. Started off in private practice, representing folks denied insurance claims for various types: personal injury, workers' comp, social security. And then in 2018, I went to work at the insurance commissioner's office, where I was a staff attorney doing a lot of regulatory licensee work, administrative hearings, all sorts of different things on the regulatory side. And then right as the pandemic started, I moved over to the Healthcare Authority, where I was also a staff attorney doing administrative hearings and regulatory work. And then I saw this job posting and I was like, that looks pretty cool. And I was ready to shake things up a little bit in terms of my legal niche. So I'm new to liquor and cannabis, but not necessarily to regulations or rules and figuring out what they mean.
Great. Yeah, welcome to you. And one of the
I can't hear him.
you now know in your mind, you know, what's a good rule look like, and how do you do that in a way that makes sense and is enforceable, which is really the nut of what we have to do. So I think that's great experience too. I'm really excited to have both of you get the staff back up to a full team again, and I know the work will never end. So appreciate you both starting so quickly and hit the ground running. So welcome.
Yeah, and I'd like to just offer my own welcome to both of you, and the quality of your backgrounds, I think, are going to do nothing but enhance the team that we have. And Kathy, thank you to the work that you've done to recruit such quality candidates to the LCB. So welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. We will move to our next item now, which is board meeting prep and a rules update. Kathy, I'll let you take us through whatever's up next. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Chair Postman. And now that we have Cassidy and Daniel on board with us, we can resume some of the work that we started towards the early part of fall. So Daniel will bring forward the one-on-one, hopefully in January, on the rule project related to cloud storage. So that's based on that petition that we received and you approved related to cloud storage. And then Daniel will also pick up the work that Audrey started with respect to staff requests for rule changes on the alcohol side that we've been working on for several years, kind of accumulating. So he'll start that project as well. He will also bring in, right now he's saying January, so we'll probably look for the one-on-one towards the end of January related to allowing Elks Clubs to have more than, entities like the Elks Club have more than one promotional event a quarter. And that was also a rule petition that the board approved. And then moving on to cannabis, with respect to the Canopy Rule project, we held our second World Cafe on the 29th. It was highly successful, I would say. We're learning a lot more about how to run World Cafes a little more efficiently. I'm going to kick it over to Jeff just for a second to give you a little bit of idea of what we learned during that session. Because I think, Jeff, you're pretty well on top of that, right?
Yeah, can I just ask a quick question? When
Sure.
you were talking and everyone, the sound's been cutting in and out. Is anybody else having that problem or is it just us here? You have been. Okay.
Yes. We're also having
We're having
it on our
end
end as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it is. We'll continue to futz around, but okay. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Thank you. And thank you, Kathy. And thank you, Chair Postman. Yes, we had the second World Cafe session. And in this session, based on the discussions from the first World Cafe meeting in October, we continued the discussion and talked about the possibility of regulating cannabis in a different way, regulating production rather than canopy. What would some other ways of regulating the amount produced? What other ideas we'd have? So we talked about other possibilities such as plant counts and having tiers defined by yield rather than by actual canopy. So we had a good discussion, and we had a lot of people who showed support for maintaining canopy, but providing more set standards for how canopy is measured and determined. There's a consensus that space that isn't under a plant should not count towards that. And I know that there's, we have to measure for aisle space and rows and space like that. But we had a good, robust discussion. Some people have expressed interest in a yield or weight based production limit. But I would say that from our sessions, the takeaway from the second World Cafe was that people are comfortable with the canopy measurement that we have now with that concept. So we'll be continuing, and I'll be analyzing the notes and the recordings from the second World Cafe and memorializing that discussion. So I think it's coming along. It's very interesting, and it's a complex topic for sure.
Yeah. When you say that people seem to be comfortable with the system, what do you mean? Just in the sense that there's an acceptance that this is a tool we need, that it should be done on some canopy-based thing, but we're still talking about exactly what that means, right?
Right. I think that's a good way to put it, rather than looking away from canopy. I think the discussion trended towards the system that we have, and being that producers are operating under established footprints and established spaces, that, I think that's what's familiar. And there were some concerns about a weight system, because then there was a opinion among some of the participants that having a yield-based system would skew the production towards certain varieties of cannabis, which may be just the ones that are heavier producing, which may affect the market or consumer demand. So it was very interesting.
Could I interject? Oh, he's talking.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, sure. I was going to say, I think the thing that I heard, at least in the breakout room that I was leading, is there was a request for standardization, and standard application across the board. So everybody's being the rules are being interpreted in the same way for every production facility in Washington State, and that I think in turn would provide some predictability, some stability for producers. And I think at least that was a theme in the room that I was working with. And I think, Jeff, you're kind of speaking to that.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. That is true. That's the that really is the underlying theme.
And I think that would, not to speak for the whole board, but would be my top priority, is what is uniformly enforceable and enforced statewide, and one thing that would help me when we do come to some point of this discussion too is to why is canopy measured and restricted and limited? What is it? I think that would help us all to, as a little refresher for the agency and our licensees, it's not just done because we want to do it. There's a reason for it, and that then gets down to exactly what is measurable canopy and what is required for growing. And then of course we have indoor grows and outdoor grows, and indoor grows that want to anyhow, that's one of the things I've been scratching my head over.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're just trying to fix a little tech thing here. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry,
I was just following along. I've lost my audio for a minute.
That's what we're trying to fix here. Sorry, but why don't we just stand at ease for 60 seconds?
Thanks.
Sounds like it's not just us.
So this is on the right one. So yeah, it's just fitting in that for everyone. Okay. I am not certain about that yet.
It's almost like the connection because it's on all.
Yeah. So there's something weird every
It's like the Teams link or the connection or something. It's weird. That never happens.
Later, it cuts out for like 3 seconds. It sounds like Teams itself. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's.
We will continue that.
All
So yeah,
right.
those are my thoughts, but please, Kathy, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Chair Postman. Anything else you wanted to add, Jeff? Otherwise, I'll keep on with our rules update.
No, please continue on. That's all I
Okay.
have now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. So moving on to the cannabis advertising project, I know that's of interest to many. Cassidy's becoming acquainted with that file and is reworking the timeline on that. And we'll be able to give you an update at the next board meeting in early January on the status of that project and how we're going to move it forward. And then she's also taking a look at the 2 approved rule petitions regarding persons under 16 and over 16 on cannabis production facility premises. So she's going to dive deeply into that. There's a lot of history with that particular rule project that she needs to get caught up on, and then she'll be able to bring that forward probably the end of January. I think that's what we were talking about when we met last week. So lots of rules work in the future that we can sort of bring back to the fore again, and we're really looking forward to that. Before I talk about board prep for tomorrow, I also wanted to just keep you updated on what happened with the cannabinoid science work group last week. The 2 of you were there at different times, but it was a really good discussion, primarily around members being able to become acquainted with each other. And we took down all of the questions that each participant proposed, and we'll be circulating those questions in the coming week. There was just a lot of content there for us to think about. And I think I heard from many, including some people I'm here with, about the diversity of the group and, you know, just the composition of the group and how well it seemed to cover all the interests that we bring to this work. So we're really happy with the way that work is progressing at this point, even though we've just had 1 meeting so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim?
I just like, so I was also impressed with the level of engagement during the time that I was there. People were very engaged in the conversation and enthusiastic. And I was also impressed with the research questions that each of them brought to the table, and look forward to seeing this continue to expand. Lost audio.
The meeting, sorry, you got the sound cut off. I didn't mean
Yeah.
to.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, anyhow, I agree. People brought some great questions to the table from all points of view, frankly. You know, one about that really struck me that we've talked about briefly, but I think is going to be a bigger issue as cannabis grows, is impaired driving tests. You know, and somebody said, how do you do it? And what is the technology and the science behind it? From folks, you talk about, it's one of the things I always think about when people talk about public consumption lounges. Well, how do we measure whether if you go to a lounge and smoke or ingest, and then is it safe to drive? We kind of know what it is with alcohol these days. Not everybody's very well disciplined about it, but we know what it is. So anyhow, yeah, I thought it was fascinating. What an interesting group of people.
Yeah. So very happy with the direction that that's taking, and just the way the group just kind of came together. So if I may, I'll just move on to board prep for tomorrow. Jeff and I will both be presenting recommendations with respect to rule petitions we received. I'm going to provide recommendations that on a petition we received in mid-October, asking the agency to consider rulemaking that would allow a Class 13 alcohol server permit holder to engage in the same activities that a Class 12 alcohol server permit holder engages in. And then Jeff will be offering a recommendation on a cannabis-related rule petition tomorrow as well. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Jeff. I know you've been on already, but.
Sure. Well, I could briefly speak to it, Kathy.
Sure, thanks.
Thank you. I will be presenting the response to a rule petition received on October 13th from Jeff Merriman. The petition requests that the agency create a new administrative rule to reduce the cannabis producer license fee by 90% for any licensed producer that shuts down production for at least 1 year or more. The producer license amount is established in RCW and is currently set at $1,381 per year. So the issue is whether we should initiate rulemaking to consider a change to the license amount. Mr. Merriman states that the rule is needed because there is a need for responsible growers to shut down for a few years to help market conditions. And he does specify that a dormant producer would have to reimburse the LCB for the remaining portion of the license if they did resume production in a time shorter than that 1 year window. So I thank you for the opportunity to present the request tomorrow, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
I have none.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Till tomorrow. Thank you, Jeff.
Hey, thank you.
So that concludes our updates for today, Chair Postman.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then takes us to board member and executive assistant reports. And first, Rick, I'll just check with you. You guys are at the Cannabis Regulators Association conference. You can share with us what's the buzz?
Well, I think two really good first sessions that we heard. One, Justin was a part of. Axel Barnaby, who's the administrator from New York, and then someone from Illinois talking about market structures. And we can bring that back to you, but it's really about how did you decide how you were going to put your systems together? We're a unique state in that we don't allow vertical integration. What does that mean? And what about when you put caps on the number of licenses? And what does it mean for social equity? The person from Illinois, can't think of her name right now, spoke specifically about their proposals to create social equity, community investment funds. And so a lot of really, like I said, it's been quite a while since we've talked about how did you decide how you were going to, put your structure together? For us, we didn't get to decide. It was in the initiative. But for states like New York, they got to take the time to learn from states like our own. What are the things that worked and didn't work? So I thought it was really interesting. The second session, and please jump in, folks. The second session was on this whole issue of hemp cannabinoids. And we had 6 separate states, including Kathy there, talking about really the difficulty of doing this and how we're all struggling with trying to deal with Delta-8 gummies and the rest of it. You all know all the stuff that's out there that likely is impairing or intoxicating, and not knowing how really to deal with it. Really a discussion about this began with the 2018 Farm Bill. It was a problem that was created by the Farm Bill, and it probably has to be fixed there because we're all struggling and trying to determine how to address it ourselves. I spoke very briefly about the revised THC bill that we're going to bring forward that we hope will take care of it, but I'll let Jim and Kathy jump in. But just listening to all 6 states, including our own, it was just it was kind of like a big sigh, like, this is really difficult. We're struggling with this. We're not sure what to do. A belief that CANRA, because we're one organization of 42 states, and by the way, I think I heard there were 36 states here today, about 160 regulators or folks that work like ourselves. We think we have 8 people present, but it's a really good first 2 sessions. I'll stop there and let Jim and Dr. Hoffman jump in.
Well, I think you covered it well, Rick. I think that for me, David, I heard from Illinois in particular. I was really interested in what they had to say in terms of market structure. And one of the things that they did right from the very beginning is put aside 20% of their tax revenues to reinvest in communities that were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. And so I actually had a question about that because I think for me, it goes beyond communities that have been impacted, but it's also recovery communities, and it's young people and it's parents. And, I really believe in reinvesting some of the revenue that's brought in back into the system. So I thought that was intriguing. But yeah, other than that, Rick, I think you covered it well. Anything else?
No, I would agree with that. And I would also agree with, Rick indicating, and I certainly felt it, just a sigh of relief that we're all sort of struggling around hemp cannabinoids. And what a challenge that is for us, especially in Washington State, given that we, LCB has no regulatory authority at all with anything related to hemp. So it's interesting to hear how other states have handled it, but it's also, as I say, really relieving to hear from the regulator's perspective that we're not in this alone and all the other states are challenged by this. And, what the implications for the 2023 Farm Bill might be.
Yeah.
So
the other thing, David, going back to your comments when you were mentioning Cassidy and the fact that she has experience and that we've hired something, there's something special about being in a national meeting with people who are doing this around the country. And I was sitting there thinking this morning, actually, I was thinking about Cassidy. I was thinking about you this morning when I was, in this room of people and thinking, this is really this is really showing how far we've come in terms of professionalism and understanding and research and just regulatory and policy and all of these things. And it's just great to be around other people who are struggling with the same thing so we can have some really rich, deep conversations about these things. Hope you're not. You're cutting
Sorry.
in and out, David.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever it was important. I'll just say I look forward to hearing more. I'm glad you all are there and take a lot of notes would be great. So, anything else from our Florida Bureau? All right. Okay. Dustin, anything? Meeting. So hope to see you all then. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.